Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. It's Friday, Game 4 tonight, and we've got a lot of NBA news to get into. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, over on Instagram at Trevor Lane NBA. Joining me, Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, big night tonight. How are you feeling? Are you nervous for tonight's game, or feeling pretty good, or where are you at right now?
It's weird. I don't mean this at all to be like I'm too cool for this. So yeah, I don't get like super nervous like that, but I'll have like nervous energy as we get closer. It's still, I mean, we're 5 hours from tip as we record this, so I tend to be a little bit more relaxed. But as we get a little closer, I'll have that kind of nervous energy going, but excited. But yeah, we'll see what happens this time. By no means do I think it's a lock the Celtics win. I think they have a great chance, but we'll see. When it's Stephen Curry on the other side, it's just that's nerve-wracking enough. To be going against that guy.
Well, we should mention, and we spent time yesterday kind of breaking down where the series is at, everything, so we don't need to re-dive into all of it, but we did get some news today that Stephen Curry is expected to be okay for Game 4 tonight. Whether that means he's 75% or 100%, we don't know, and that will certainly matter for the Warriors, but just the fact that it's not like he's going to miss this game, and I think that's even if you're a Celtics fan, you don't want to see Steph Curry missing the game. You want everybody out there healthy, and all of that. So great news that Steph Curry sounds like he'll be a go for Game 4.
Yeah, my guess is we'll know very quickly if he is himself or if he's kind of limping through the game or what the deal is. So yeah, we'll know pretty early on.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about NBA expansion. Mark Stein got into it a bit today, and we can briefly discuss here. But first, maybe even more important here, I threw out there on Twitter for Front Office Show fans to hit us with team names should LeBron be successful in bringing a team to Las Vegas. So, Keith, here are some of the responses, and Keith has not seen these yet. Has not looked. So I've got one that actually, this one had like the full uniform all made up and everything. They've even got Bradley Beal in a Las Vegas jersey and everything. The Las Vegas Venom is what they have.
I kind of like that.
I like it. And they've got the court design and everything.
Yeah, I like alliteration in team names, so I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I could get behind that. What was the color scheme?
The color scheme is black and gold. So you're kind of Las Vegas Knights there.
Sure.
Right. And they've got an alternate as red.
No, what I would throw in almost like a venomous green thought. Like I don't know why when I think Venom, I think green. I'm not sure why. It probably doesn't mean anything. I don't know, but
I'm surprised you don't think Spider-Man Venom.
Yeah,
that's where my head goes.
True. Yeah. Maybe go black and white with the color scheme. We have the Nets, and that's such a
the Nets
color scheme. So yeah, no, that's fun
so,
though.
Here's more. I've got Las Vegas Dice, Las Vegas Gladiators. Somebody said Las Vegas GMs because LeBron. Las Vegas Buffets.
Buffets. That'd be fun.
The Vegas Blue Chips. This one just gave me a long list here. The Vegas Shots. Every one of these starts with Vegas. So Vegas Shots, Cagers, Smoke, Sandstone, Gems, Chips, and Line.
Line,
like betting line.
Oh, yeah. So here's what I think. I don't think they're going to want to lean too heavily into the gambling part with the name. That'll come kind of naturally as we always nickname teams, right? Anyway, so that'll come a little bit naturally. But yeah, I don't know. I will say the WNBA team, the Las Vegas Aces, that's pretty cool. Like that's a pretty great team name.
That's fantastic. Then we've got this one got a little spicy. The Las Vegas Slots, or instead of an O, is that a U?
Yeah, no.
Come on. Here we got. I've got the Las Vegas Lights. That already exists.
Does it?
That's the team. That's a soccer team.
Oh, okay. All right,
yeah,
I didn't know.
That's
interesting. I kind of like that.
The Las Vegas.
That didn't stop Cleveland, right? Cleveland took the Guardians, even though it was a roller derby team or something. When they renamed the Indians.
We will take this from you. The Las Vegas Gamblers, The Las Vegas mobsters. I don't know about.
Yeah,
I don't.
that's
I don't think.
probably not the image you want
Yeah.
to evoke.
Here's this one. This one I like. This one might be. Maybe. Well, okay. Here's some typical. The Las Vegas Sinners. The Las Vegas Hangover.
Yeah,
The Las Vegas Spartans. Somebody said it. I'd say then you would have the Knights and the Spartans.
yeah, I kind of like that.
Okay. Okay. But this one
And
might
that
be my
would be
favorite.
cool too.
Hmm.
That one, like when the game starts, like you could play from 300. This is Sparta.
That's
That'd be
right.
pretty cool if you get the crowd going. Like that'd be fun.
That could be kind of cool. That could definitely be cool. This might be my favorite. If you're incorporating the LeBron thing, and I don't know how I feel about naming a team after an owner because we saw how that went with the Bobcats.
I was gonna say that didn't go very well last time.
Didn't go very well, but we like alliteration. The Las Vegas Lions, because the Lions, you've got you got the L, and then you've got LeBron, the king. A lion is a king of the jungle. And then maybe you rope in an MGM, partnership.
I was going to say, yeah, that's pretty big
as well.
MGM brand. Yeah, I don't mind that one too much. I wonder if the Detroit Lions would, have anything to say, but yeah, no, I mean that'd be all right. I did. No one suggested the Las Vegas LeBrons.
No, nobody said LeBron. There's a few more. Somebody said the Las Vegas Wild, the Las Vegas Jokers. I don't think that would happen. Yeah. Nikola Jokic would have to be gifted to the team if they named themselves the Jokers.
Could be interesting. I don't. That almost though, like if you're an expansion team, you're probably going to be bad like that.
Right.
That you're set right up for the bad press with that one.
The Las Vegas Crowns.
That's not terrible.
How would I don't know what the Kings would think about that.
Yeah.
But in any event, we got some interesting ones there. I think I landed on Lions as my favorite, but again, maybe Detroit would have an issue with it. But Venom, I think, would be really good too.
Yeah, I like Venom. I like Vipers. I think that could be
Vipers. Yep.
Too. There is a Vipers in the G League, so you'd have to probably work something out.
Is it Rio Grande?
Yep, Rio Grande Valley Vipers, the Houston Rockets affiliate. So,
there you go.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Just don't pick something stupid. Like that's hopefully, that's all we don't want.
But according to Mark Stein, we are way ahead of ourselves because
we're making teams. He's like,
we're coming up with team names. They haven't even picked cities yet, but it's fun to pick team names. But Mark Stein kind of said pump the brakes on all the expansion stuff, and Adam Silver said that. But again, I took it more as Adam Silver saying, yeah, expansion is coming. Stein just cautioned that they might want to get the TV deal done first, because that's only going to increase franchise valuations, and thus you're going to be able to ask for more in your expansion fee.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that too, right? And they can then put stipulations on how that TV money is split for, might be, you don't get, it doesn't immediately go to 132 or 132nd for each team. It's, maybe, you only get a half share or something initially or whatever it may be. And they figure it out that way. And then I think we'll see too. I think there's enough buzz around it and enough people are talking about it that we may see some clarifications in the new CBA to some of the expansion talk and considerations. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Players Association pushes a little bit for, hey, what do we get for, these teams coming in? Because obviously they're only coming in if the league is healthy and successful. But historically that money has not been part of what they get. Now, what they do get is you get an extra, 34 jobs between the, standard and two-way contracts. And, presumably 2 more G League teams eventually would come in. I wouldn't be surprised too, just to tag on with, if that is a requirement for those teams, that they have G League teams. That they must have their own G League teams when they start playing, because that's been a big push by Adam Silver, is to get everybody to have the G League teams. Right now, where Phoenix and Portland don't, so that wouldn't be a surprise at all if that comes as part of the thing. You have to have a G League team set up, and that could be a good way to get maybe a couple other markets involved in the NBA ish. That wouldn't be there, but. Yeah, it's interesting. I still think, and I think Mark Stein called it out pretty well too. Like, it is coming. It's just not coming soon. Like it's
not
going to be
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Really quick, Stein also mentioned the Westbrook-Wall swap that has been rumored for, well, I mean, basically ever since Russell Westbrook landed in LA. There's been discussions of this happening again, but Stein said, look, he talked to a source, and the source said that the Rockets will only do it if they get draft compensation for it, and the Lakers are not interested in doing that. And of course, it totally makes sense. So I don't see that actually getting done because of that. Two similar contracts, almost identical contracts. And John Wall hasn't played basketball in a year. Russell Westbrook didn't play very well last season. Sorry, Westbrook stands. I know you're out there, but Russ didn't play great last season. So you can see where both teams could just say, okay, change the scenery. Let's just swap them. But if the Rockets need a first or a future pick in order to do the deal, I could see where the Lakers could just say, well, we don't even know what John Wall can do. So no, thanks.
Yeah, it makes sense for both sides to kind of hold firm here, right? If I'm the Rockets, we already did the Westbrook thing. I want picks if that's the direction we're going to go. And if we're the Lakers, I would say, I'm not giving up we don't need to get rid of him that badly to give you a pick when we don't even know if John Wall can actually play or not. Like, and it's just, hey, I am not against trading draft picks to rebalance your salary sheet, to do what you need to do, if it's the right thing to do. In this case, I'm very against it because there's no guarantee you're getting any better or a better fit or anything like that. So, yeah, I would pass if I was the Lakers as well. It almost becomes irresponsible to you already invested draft capital in acquiring the guy. Now you're going to turn around a year later and invest more and get rid of him. Nah, it doesn't make sense. Wait it out. Something better will come along, or you'll work a buyout or something.
Agreed.
Or play better. I mean, I'm not going to completely rule that out. I mean, we've seen this before. Every once in a while, a guy figures it out that, all right, I need to change the way I play. Like, or my career is over. Like it's one or the other. And some guys say, nope, I am who I am as a player, and they go down that way. And then other guys kind of, all right, well, then I'm gonna change the way I play and figure it out. And I there could still be value in there for Russell. It's not going to be $47 million of value, of course not, but there could still be something in there.
There's reason to be optimistic that he could be better than he was last season. I don't think there's reason to be optimistic that he can be superstar version of Russell Westbrook again. I don't think I think that's unreasonable. I think being better than last season, that could happen. That could happen with a different coach, a different mentality. Maybe there's better relationship. Those sorts of things can change. And then scheme wise, if some things change, you could get a better result out of Russell. It doesn't mean he's going to be worth $47 million, but a better result would be a more efficient player potentially. That could be in the cards.
Yeah, better pieces around those three guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it exists.
David Griffin talked about a Zion Williamson extension. Sounds like the Pelicans are all on board with getting this done, and they should be. Zion Williamson is an incredible player. As long as you have protections in place against any kind of injury, then I think it makes a lot of sense. Zion has also already expressed that he would like to sign the new contract with the Pelicans. So I think this gets done. I think what we're just curious to see is exactly what do those protections look like.
That's it. That's going to be the sticking point, right? Well, whether it's non-guaranteed, like Michael Porter Jr.'s is, or I guess partially guaranteed to be more accurate on that, or whether it's the Embiid protection where they can get out of it earlier. Is it Jonathan Isaac type protections where the guarantees slide if he doesn't meet so many games played, and those kind of things. And I get it from the Pelican side saying, hey, we're happy to give you $180 million. We just need you to, kind of, work with us here, because if you're, if 2 years in, all of a sudden you can't play, we need to be able to get out of it. And I understand from Zion's side saying like, hey, I'm going to go. There's also some buzz out there that he looks like he's in great shape and is really, doing well with stuff. It sounds like he's really engaged with the team and with his teammates and some of the offseason work that they're already doing, which is really good to hear after we had gone through months where he was working out away from the team. But that can also be hard on a player. I talked to someone about this the other day where they said it's really hard because you've got, in this case, 16 guys, if the two-way guys are there too, coming into the gym every day, working on, all right, we're making a playoff push, we're doing this. And you're like, all right, cool. I did calf raises today or whatever the case is. And it's like,
Right.
and that can be really hard on the player because you don't feel like you're working towards the same end goal
It can
a
be
little bit.
lonely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Clay Thompson talked about that too.
Mhm.
Like his 2 years of rehab, how like at times like you felt like he wasn't even part of the team anymore. And and that's not saying these teams aren't doing the best they can by these guys. It's just very hard because your goals aren't the same,
Right.
day in, day out. Then your ultimate end goal sure is get back, get healthy, try to win a championship. But yeah, on the extension stuff, makes sense to me that this is kind of where both sides are locking in. This came from the Ryan Russillo podcast. Really good
Mhm.
interview. I like David Griffin because he is pretty candid.
Yeah.
Into kind of insight. No, we didn't go down and break down his draft board or anything like that, but he is pretty candid into life in a front office, which is fun because you don't always get that from sitting GMs. Oftentimes those interviews, unless they're about like past decisions, are so incredibly boring because it's just like you're giving me nothing here.
You mean he didn't have a whiteboard behind him with, like, all of his targets listed out?
That's an Orlando Magic trademark only.
That's right. All right, let's talk a little Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal had some comments recently. We've been operating under the assumption that he stays with the Washington Wizards. Everything seemed to point that way. I'm not saying he said he wasn't going to, but he talked a lot about how he wants to go where he can win, wherever he feels he can win, and that's going to be the most important thing. I don't like that. That tends to suggest that he'll be open to some options that aren't the Washington Wizards. I still think he ultimately winds up back there, but it certainly, I mean, maybe like the Wizards should be a little bit nervous, I think, after seeing that comment from Bradley Beal about how focused on winning he's going to be and getting the finding the right opportunity to do that. That suggests he's going to be open to some other options besides Washington.
I took it as putting the pressure on Washington.
Yeah.
Of this is where I want to be because he did close that section of that quote out with, and if that's DC, I expect you all to respect it and that. So I do think there's a chance that's what he was doing, was basically telling the Wizards like, hey, I need you to you need to be here with me, right? We need to fix this. We need to win, kind of together here. He was very interesting. This was with an interview with Taylor Rooks of Bleacher Report. She is so good in these interviews. Like she is really, really good at conducting these interviews, getting the players to kind of open up and share some stuff. And I thought one of the neat things was Bradley Beal said he has anxiety because it's getting close now, right? Now it is
Clock's
getting
ticking
down to decision time. And this isn't really, he hasn't fully been in this spot before because it's always been kind of like, all right, I'm just resigning. Like it's nothing there. He talked about, what do my kids want? What does my wife want? And those kind of things. And then he did say, but at the end of the day, I want to win. And I think he's getting to the point in his career, much like Damian Lillard, where it's, I want to win here, but at some point it'll probably get to a point where it's like, all right, I just want to win one. Right. And then I don't think Wizards fans, much like I don't think Blazers fans, are going to feel like, hey, come on, man, you're bailing on us. I think it's going to be very much like, hey, you don't owe us anything. You gave us a decade plus.
He's built up that equity.
Yeah, exactly. And that's everybody wants the fairy tale of players drafted, player wins the championship, where's drafted and all that stuff. It's just not, it rarely works out like that. There's a guy who's a part of Celtics coverage, and he always talks about how so few players that were drafted in the top 5 won a championship with the team that drafted them. Like it's a minuscule amount. And this is like going back to like Tim Duncan. So that even gives you like, we're talking, gosh, I mean, you talk about feeling old. That was 25 years ago. That Tim Duncan was drafted, right? And it's the look on your face. It was like, oh, thanks for that.
It doesn't. When you said 25 years, I went, oh my God, how is that possible?
No, it doesn't seem. It was funny. I said the other day, it was yesterday. I was like, how's the draft 2 weeks from now? And then I was looking at something. I was like, how in the hell did this happen? This, it was like this. It was the last Celtics championship. I was like, how was that 14 years ago? That was like 3 years ago. Like, come on now. But yeah, time flies. But back to Bradley Beal. I still continue to believe he re-signed with Washington. See if they can get it together for another year. If they can't, then we know how it'll go. He'll ask for a trade and we'll figure it out. We'll see him somewhere else. I don't can I ask you a question about Bradley
Yeah.
Beal? I know you deal with this with every star that comes on, presumably on the market.
Yeah.
I think people have an inflated sense of what Bradley Beal is. Like it feels like sometimes he gets like this, like he's like
Mhm.
I was gonna say Harden, but like
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 he's
a
Durant
couple
or
years
something.
ago, Harden. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is like a franchise guy who will dominate and come in and push you over the top to win a championship. I don't know. For a while, I just kind of haven't felt like he's necessarily that guy.
I think he's very, very good. I think you're
Yes.
right to assume that he's not a 1A dominant superstar. That's not what he is. And that's not a knocker. I mean, that's
Sure.
very, very
Yeah.
incredibly rare,
Small
right, to
list.
be that.
Yes.
But he's absolutely fantastic. But I think it's a combination of things. I think he plays for a team that not a lot of people go out of their way to watch. So there's a little bit of that mystery there to him, right?
Mhm.
Where you've heard the name a lot and you haven't necessarily seen a lot of what he's done. So you assume he's just absolutely fantastic. And this guard that is just taking over games left and right. Again, he's very good, but I don't think he's that guy. Then I think you've got the availability piece. His name has been in
Yeah.
rumors for so long. It's the availability that makes it exciting. It makes people really pump them. Oh, imagine what this team could be with Bradley Beal there. I think that because we've been hearing his name in rumors I mean, it feels like forever at this point. So I think that adds to fans of other teams looking at Bradley Beal and saying, this guy's fantastic. If we get him, we're great. That type of thing. I think that element gets mixed into the analysis of Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I think there's also I teasingly call them points Twitter, where it's like you
Yes.
see, guy scores 30 points, he must be great. And I
Yep.
also think there's this assumption of, well, we score 115 points as a team, we get 30 points score, now we score 145. It's like
Yeah.
it's not how it works. You don't just throw that on top.
Hashtag math.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of the Wizards, Shane Larkin. Right now, he's over in Turkey, but the Wizards are looking for some help at the point guard position and could turn to him. He does have an out in his contract over there, and maybe somebody that gets a look as a guard again in the NBA.
Yeah, Larkin just re-signed a 2-year deal with powerhouse Turkish club Efes. He is probably at this point the best player not playing in the NBA. In the world, he's been
Mhm.
great over there. He racks up scoring and assists. I've said it before in here, but I'll say it again. Assists are very hard to come by in European basketball. Basically, you have to lead directly to a shot and a basket. It can't be passed it off. Guy made 10 dribbles and then hit a shot. Like, that's how it works in the NBA. It does not work that way over in Europe. So just adjust everything. If you're like, he racks up assists, he average 5 per game. That's actually really good. But yeah, he's become an absolute star over there. He's making great money. So it's going to be probably more about getting back to the NBA for him than it is the money, because I don't think the money is necessarily going to be equal. But if you could come in and have a good year, to me, this also very much signals Washington needs a point guard badly.
Yeah.
They don't have one on the roster right now. It's the Ish Smith, but he's got a guaranteed contract, and so lock he'll be back. So they got to figure out something at that position, because that still is a position where as much as we're transitioning maybe to wings as more playmakers and stuff, you still got to have somebody to bring the ball up and get you into your sets and those kind of things.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting. Maybe he comes back and winds up with the Washington Wizards and gets another crack at the NBA. Damian Lillard, speaking of point guards, rumor broke that Damian Lillard would like to see the Blazers. We know the Blazers are going to try to upgrade their roster. They're going to try to get some type of help for Lillard, ideally take the stuff that they got at the trade deadline this last year, and they are going to use that to build a better constructed, potentially contending team around Damian Lillard this summer. Lillard would like to see OG Anunoby or DeAndre Ayton join him in Portland. What do you think about those two specific targets? Different situations for both those guys.
Yeah, different means of acquiring both of them
Yeah,
potentially too. Because Aiton, you'd have to go the cap space route because you're going to put yourself in a position where if you're going to acquire him, you almost have to do that. And even then, you might still have to do cap space plus an outgoing player or something, and maybe do the double sign trade. Maybe it could be something with Nurkic, where
sure.
the Suns take Nurkic back, and the Blazers get Aiton, and then the Blazers still have a little bit of money to operate. A different way. They could stay over the cap and even do a move like that and still have their trade exception, which that could be then how they acquire OG Anunoby if they're looking to double dip. This came from Jake Fisher. Jake's with Bleacher Report, but I believe this came from the Dunk Tom podcast with Nate Duncan, is where he was talking about this. And he had reporting just, I want to maybe earlier this week, last week, it's all running together. But OG Anunoby's not happy in Toronto. And that's been buzzing around for a while that doesn't really like his role. He feels like he's being pushed to, fourth or fifth on the pecking order, and he wants a bigger role. Now, I don't know about going to Portland. You're going to be, maybe second, but you're
At best,
third, fourth,
right?
maybe there too. But I don't know. Maybe he feels just better overall about that situation, or maybe it's not necessarily Portland. He just wants to go somewhere else. But we'll see what comes out of that one. But again, just further, the big takeaway for me is Portland's doing stuff, and they're going to be super active.
Yes, and please stop with the Damian Lillard trades.
Yeah,
I still see people saying, Damian Lillard to this team or that team, or the Blazers are going to blow it up. No, that is 100% not their plan. Their plan is the exact opposite. If you really want Damian Lillard on the trade market, the earliest, and I mean, if everything completely falls to pieces, we're talking the trade deadline this year, and that's even that would be really pushing it. We're probably looking at next offseason at the earliest that they would even really look at moving Damian Lillard, and that would take everything they do this summer completely imploding Lakers style. That's what would have to happen in order for Damian Lillard to ask for a trade and be in that situation. So I don't
imploding Lakers style made me laugh. Sorry.
it's obviously my brain is
true.
wired that way, but it's true. It would take a historically bad season like what we just saw with the Lakers for Damian Lillard to say, you know what, this is it. I'm not going to win here in Portland. Let's move on. They're not going to trade him. They're going to try to build around him this summer by adding pieces, whether it's Aiton, whether it's Anunoby, somebody else, Jeremy Grant. The Blazers are going to be aggressive, and they're going to be a buyer, not a seller on the market.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even the trade deadline could just, even if it does go sideways, could be hard just because how big his salary is. But you're absolutely right. That would be the first time they would look at it. Let's stick with this Portland for just a minute, though.
Okay.
So the West, I'm just looking at how good do you need to get to even feel good, right, in the West. The top 6 teams, the 6 assured playoff teams, which were Phoenix, Memphis, Golden State, Dallas, Utah, and Denver, 1 through 6. Do you see any of them falling out? I mean, and I'm not.
Utah maybe because they're going to do some drastic stuff, but I would imagine those things are going to be to try to improve, though. So, but in general, no, probably not. I'd say it's unlikely any of those to fall out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one of them, has the season from hell injury wise, and it all falls apart. Sure. I mean, that happens every year, right? But assuming relative health, Minnesota, probably not. I mean, maybe they slide back a little, but I don't see them falling completely apart. Then Pelicans, they're probably going to be better, right? Then Clippers, definitely going to be better.
They'll be one of the top teams on paper.
Put them up into that top 6 without a doubt. Maybe the best regular season team, if they want it. Spurs, who knows, right? Let's see what they do. I could still see them being the same way. Then we're down into the teams that didn't make the play-in. The Lakers, I got to assume it's going to be better. Can't imagine it's not going to be. And if for no other reason, they're going to be trying to be better, right? They really shut it down pretty early last year. And that was part of, a lot of the losses at the end. The Kings, I mean, God love them. They're always trying. Then you go Portland, and then Oklahoma City and Houston. And I don't think they're ready yet. Those 2 teams, I think they're just going to be naturally bad teams, just more because they're going to be so young. but we just went through it. It's I mean, you might need to add Ayton and OG Anunoby and some other guys just to climb up into the spot you want to be at. Like it's going to be tough in the West. Where I think in the East, I think the East is now just as tough as the West is at the top. But I think the bottom of the East, there's a few more places where you could say, all right, yeah, we could crack in there. We could
the East made a push. Like it's been the West has been the tougher conference for decades now. The East flipped that this year. I think it goes back next year. I think the injuries to the West changed. And I'm not saying it's a huge discrepancy, but but the West is, you could essentially stumble your way into the playoffs, or you can find ways not to, but you could pretty much stumble your way into the playoffs in the Western Conference this season. It was incredibly forgiving, unlike anything we have seen in recent memory with the Western Conference. I would not expect that to happen again, unless again, there's some crazy rash of injuries or something like that. But again, that's not something you would project. So the West looks like it's going to be extremely difficult. So even with Portland doing everything they can to win, it's not going to be easy. It's not a sure thing that Portland vaults themselves back up into the mix, but they're going to try, and they have to. They have to. If they don't, if they say, you know what, we're not a playoff team, then okay, then look to trade Dame. Then you look to do that, but that's not where they're at right now.
Yeah, I just think you got to be really smart with the way you approach this. And it's not to say that Ayton or Anunoby are bad players, because they're not. Both of them are very good players. And I think Anunoby's a fantastic value on his contract. Ayton we'll see what it takes, because it's probably going to take a near max to get him. And then maybe that's not such a great value. But that's just kind of the nature of the way it's going to play out. I worry like you go too far if you're Portland, and then what you've done is now you've kind of locked back into what you just got out of, right? We're a good team, we're a playoff team, but we're 4 maybe at the high end. Like that's kind of our best. Maybe if there was another year where everything hits right for us, and then all of a sudden, like, is that what Damian Lillard wants? I mean, maybe it is. Maybe he's content to just, hey, get us to the playoffs and we'll see where it goes. And and there is always the upside that it all comes together perfectly, and then the next thing you know, you are playing in the West Finals or something like that. It's just that's why I keep bringing this point up, is with these West teams, these kind of the middle of the pack West teams, where I think Utah is going to slide back to now as well. You've got to be really smart going forward, because otherwise you're gonna put yourself in a really tough position, because the teams behind you either just naturally are coming because they're going to get better, because their young guys are going to improve, or they're going to make these big jumps. So it's like, I don't know how many teams in the West probably feel great about where they're at as even being a playoff team, saying like, yeah, for sure. Like there's, barring disaster, we're great. So it's just something that's been kind of floating around in my mind for a little bit here.
No, absolutely. You're 100% correct on that. And speaking of which, the Utah Jazz in the Western Conference, they are interviewing everybody.
Yep. Did you get your call yet? I just got mine. Mine just came through.
Did you?
Recording. Yeah, I'll be
your guy Danny called you up?
Yeah, that's it. He said, "Hey, we're interviewing everybody else. We might as well interview you. You occasionally get 1 or 2 things right on Twitter, so let's go."
Danny Ainge was about to call me, but he came up just short. He was close to calling me. He almost got it done.
Danny Ainge saw that purple and yellow and was like, "No, can't have it. That's not Jazz purple and yellow."
Phone call. He found out that he was going to have to give up a 2029 second round pick in order to call me, and he said, "No, that's way too much. That's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. I need to keep this war chest stocked." No, but they're interviewing a lot of people.
Wide net though.
Yes, they are.
All of our silliness there was to say, like, there's a lot of guys on this list.
There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, that's a good thing. That's what they should be doing. Completely that's absolutely what they should be doing. You leave no stone unturned. You figure out, you look through all your options. And you know what? We talk about this with players all the time. We talk about the reason why teams, even if they don't have a pick, they try to bring in guys to work them out, because the relationships that you forge in that process could matter down the road. It's possible these guys that they interview, nothing works out with them. And then a few years later, suddenly there's a need and you need an assistant coach, or you need another head coach, and you remember this guy was really great in his interview process before, and off you go. And then you've already got kind of that bridge built. So it makes sense. If you're Utah, if you're any team that's looking for a head coach, cast a wide net. The only thing it costs you is the time it takes to do the interview and do your research and your due diligence and all that. But I'd much rather do that and do too much work than not enough and wind up with a candidate and then have to replace them a year or two down the road because you didn't do the work when you needed to.
Yeah, I think too, every once in a while we see when there's so many assistant coaches on a list, every once in a while you'll see they don't get the top job, but then they're willing to come in and work for somebody else.
Yep.
And then they bring them in and they go that way. So we could see some of that going on. And you're absolutely right. This is, I'm glad you brought up the draft thing because I had somebody say to me the other day, so the Celtics have the 53rd pick. Right. And I'm sure you're getting even a little bit of this right now. The Lakers don't have any pick. Yep. It's like, why are you doing any of these? Why are you talking to any of these guys? Like, or people get overly excited. It's like, are we trading up to, 10th where that guy's mocked? No, but take advantage. You have a chance to meet with all these. If the kids want to come in, do a workout, meet with you. And super duper important, a lot of times when you get them in your facility, then you can get your hands on them and do your own medical evaluation, which is really important. But this is it legally for the last time for probably anywhere from 2 to 4 years that you can talk to any of these guys, because then they're going to be on another team and you can't work them out. You can there's back channel stuff. I'm not, naive enough to say that, but this is your chance to really start, all right, hey, here, remember we had those guys in, and you always hear about these things, when there's a trade made or a signing made. We really liked them at the draft, but we weren't in position to get them. And, here we are 3 years later, 4 years later, whatever it is. Now we finally get our hands on the guy. And that's, that's why they do this. But same thing with the coaching search. You're absolutely right. Because you can't just go talk to another team's coach in the middle of the season. It happens occasionally. Chris Finch in Minnesota is a great example. Moving over to take a head coaching job, but that's an extreme rarity. It's usually, all right, now we got to wait till the offseason. Again, if you're the Jazz, Hornets sound like they're between D'Antoni and Atkinson. So why not? Basically, you're the only job. Might as well talk to everybody under the sun and go from there.
100%. All right. I think that about does it today. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications. And of course, make sure that you go follow us on Apple Podcasts as well. Give us that 5-star rating and leave a review. We love reading those. Until next time, everybody, have a great weekend. Stay safe and see ya.